All right, we are less than a couple of weeks away from BC Lions training camp. Ed, you spoke recently with Travis Lulay, of course, the star of the team the last few years. This is an interesting time for this quarterback because he's not the man anymore. Jonathan Jennings, a guy who doesn't even have a year as a starting quarterback under his belt, is the man. You've followed Travis's career. What sort of transition is this going to be? And will it ultimately benefit the Lions, in your opinion?
I think so, because the CFL is such a quarterback-driven league, and when you look at that position on the Lions, you'd have to say it's the strongest. It's been probably since 2011 when Travis was healthy and won the most outstanding player. Now, that's still interesting because you're right, it's a whole different phase in his career. He's the mentor, he's kind of the on-field offensive coordinator. He's there to be the Yoda, the wise old head, and really tutor Jennings and get him to the place where he will be an elite quarterback because he has all the tools. Travis is also competitive. He's not willing to give his job up that freely. So hopefully that competition will shape the position and make it stronger because the Lions really need that position to be strong because this is a huge year for them.
Okay, I mean, and despite the losing of recent seasons,
yeah,
Lulay is a winner, isn't he?
I believe he is, yeah. And I think people still associate him with 2011, 2012, and they know that guy's around somewhere. But it's also been 3 years, right? And it's been a lot. The Lions brand has been damaged. It's been damaged on their home turf where, you know, they were untouchable for the better part of a decade under Wally Buono, and they have lost interest, and they need to regain some momentum this year.
Okay. Paul, last year was a year where momentum was really lost, right? The hiring of Jeff Tedford, boy, the Lions made a big deal about this U.S. college coach coming in. He was going to rock the CFL. He rocked nothing, right? And then he very quietly left when the season ended. How bad was this for the Lions, in your opinion?
Well, I think it was terrible, and you know, I'll disagree with that a little bit. As great as Travis Lulay is, and you may associate him with the Lions' last Grey Cup, he doesn't sell tickets. And the Lions have to be just as concerned with selling tickets now as they do about winning. And I know those two things go hand in hand, absolutely. We talk a lot when we do these videos about star power. Jonathan Jennings has that look of a star. Travis Lulay, unfortunately, is more familiar with, you know, his shoulder rehab than he is with success on the field, and that's just, you know, the cynicism of fans, and they need to get people back in that stadium. I think they've done a wonderful job on the renovation of BC Place. I think I was a big critic of it. I can argue revisionist about the price tag of it, but when that place is full and when there's an exciting event going on, it is a great place to watch a sporting event. And the Lions last year was a terrible place to watch a sporting event. So winning, star power, getting people excited, a huge part of it. I'll give the Lions this, though. This is a trap that a lot of leagues fall into. They're slave to their TV contracts, and TSN demanded that they put games on at times which were terrible for the ticket buying public. So if you have to eat that to take the TV revenue, you're going to have to suffer through, frankly, a pretty uninspiring place to play.
Right, and it was uninspiring in 2015 for the Lions. Tedford did not seem to motivate these kids to play at home at all. I went to a number of those games, so did you. Yeah. It was pretty much disappointing time and time again. So interestingly enough, Wally, who had moved aside from Mike Benavides a number of years ago, comes back in. This doesn't always work in any sport, to bring back the once successful guy who now is much older. What's your sense? You know Wally well. What's your sense about this move?
I think it has a chance to work, and let's face it, the bar is set pretty low. They're coming off a 7-11 season, so I think 10-8 would be viewed as a success. 11-7, a wild success. And yeah, look at Wally's record. I mean, he's used to rolling out of bed and winning 12 games, 13 games by accident. So is that guy still there? It's not like he never lost touch with the football team. It wasn't like he was a hands-off general manager. You could argue he was a little too involved with the team, but he's back there now, and he's handpicked his staff, and he had a real clear idea of what he wanted to do. There are very specific things that have to happen in the lineup for the Lions to be competitive with Edmonton, with Calgary, and they're a little like the Canucks, eh? It's like the Western, it's not so, they're going to be better, but better in relation to what? So, again, a fascinating season shaping up for the Lions, but I just think, again, it's so important that they reverse this trend, which has taken place over the last 3 years, which is kind of this drumbeat of negativity. And Tedford, really, it was a disaster last year. There's just no way you can sugarcoat it. This guy was supposed to be John Hufnagel, and he was gone after 1 year.
Paul, we often talk, you and I often talk about the order of professional sports teams in this city, and one of the things that comes up is that on some levels there are struggles for all of them, right? Whether it's, it's TV numbers for the Whitecaps are low, so people tend to care about them most when they're at home. Then they go on the road and nobody seems to care. The Lions, poor seasons. The Canucks dropping. How does this turn around? Because it's a complex world. Like, your daughter looks at her phone all the time. Like, there are tons of distractions out there that weren't there 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's a two-part thing for me. It's all relative to the value. So when we talk about the Canucks, the NHL is seen as big league, but the complaint now is, look, am I going to pay $125 for a ticket and then pay $9 for a beer and pay $14 for a burger or whatever it is? So that's the gripe with the Canucks, is I'm not getting value for money. Whitecaps will say it's a great value. People love going to the game. The prices are good. There's a good atmosphere. It's done in 2 hours. There's a whole bunch of parts to that equation. But the bottom line is winning. If your team wins, people typically will go home happy, and they won't begrudge the money that they've spent. But if it's a Saturday night and you go, we're not doing anything, let's go watch the Lions play today. And by the third quarter, they're down by 21 points. It's 2 and out, 2 and out, 2 and out, and it's a punt fest. People are going to leave that stadium feeling sour at the money they've spent. So that's the trouble for the Lions. Can they get players that people identify with? Manny Arsenault, probably the best receiver they've had here in a while, doesn't come close to the stature that G. Roy Simon had. People were excited. They wanted to see G. Roy Simon.
Fernandez.
Yeah, but there's a ton of guys you can go back, but I'm just saying G. Roy is a guy that they've never replaced, that you wanted to see him get it in the end zone, to do the Superman pose, to throw the ball to the fans. There's none of that trapping. And we can be the cranky old white men, Jonathan and Ed, and we can...
You are.
Yeah, we can talk about the days of yesteryear and what was great and this and that, but every other league is selling the trappings. They're selling the star power. And the CFL, no matter how much they want to call you and complain about coverage, they need to get that star power out there, because we don't decide what order of coverage goes based on what you and I like. If that was the case, we'd have English Premiership on the back every day. It's all about what we think our readers want, and the numbers tell us pretty clearly. Right now it's hockey, and then Canucks it's football and soccer are both fighting for that secondary spot.
All right, well, Ed, you'll be in Kamloops, I think, for some of camp. So we're looking forward to seeing what you have to say in the lead up to the Lions season.